and welcome to the Executive Insights interview series, Partners in Philanthropy Edition. I'm Lisa Benson, Market President and Publisher at Louisville Business First. I'm here today with Tonya Abeln, who is Vice President of Communications for Churchill Downs Inc. and President of the Churchill Downs Foundation. Churchill Downs is being recognized as one of the Louisville region's most philanthropic organizations as part of our annual Partners in Philanthropy program. Tonya, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about Churchill Downs and philanthropy.
Thank you, Lisa. It's such an honor to be recognized for this.
Well, Louisville, like many communities across the nation, is faced with a lot of need across a number of different areas of the community. So would you start us off today by explaining just exactly what are Churchill Downs' strategic charitable initiatives?
Well, first and foremost, we want to make sure that as a responsible corporate citizen that we are offsetting any footprint or impact that may be made as a result of just doing business. And so really that's what the Churchill Downs Foundation focuses on. And for us, that includes several industry initiatives. We recognize that horse racing is a signature industry for Kentucky, and so that's something that we take very seriously, is how can we make sure that it is sustainable for all of the people in the state who make a living from this industry in one way or another. And we want to make sure that we're being responsible corporate citizens in terms of stewards for the horses themselves. And so we make a lot of investments in retirement options for horses after their racing career is over so that they have a sustainable, healthy, happy way of life. And they have adoption opportunities, a way to be retrained so they can serve other families and industries in other ways. So that's something we really focus on, as well as the backside community. We contribute to educational opportunities for our backside community. I think a lot of people don't realize that the backside community for the horse racing industry is an incredibly migratory community. So sometimes they go from track to track. So when they're in Louisville, Kentucky, or when they're at one of our racetracks, we want to make sure that their families have options to continue their education, and they have the resources they need to create a sense of community and belonging. And in terms of our gaming operations, obviously everyone is familiar with Churchill Downs Racetrack, but when we think about Derby City Gaming or some of our other gaming operations across the country, that's really making sure that we are sponsoring responsible gaming efforts, and that we're providing educational resources and tools, or that we're contributing to social services that may be an issue if an individual does have a disordered gaming issue. And so those are just ways that we feel like it's our responsibility to offset any footprint that's created from our business. But then beyond that, we want to make sure that the communities in which we operate are vibrant communities to live in, to work in, obviously to visit. That's very important to us as well. So one of our corporate charitable initiatives is to reduce inequalities across this community. There's so many ways to do that. So I love that pillar because it's very broad in general, and there's so many ways that we can wrap up under that umbrella. But then also we want to make sure, we think about a company that's been operating for 150 years. This city and this community is a big part of that. And so giving back is essential to us in many ways.
And Tonya, once you decide on your initiatives and you make these contributions, how do you then step back and measure the effectiveness of your giving program?
Well, I think there are some sort of qualitative measures that we try to look at. When we make a contribution, we want to make sure that it's a real partnership. So we stay in touch with those organizations. We want it to be beyond transactional. So we're following up on programs that we sponsor to see how many people benefited from that. How did the community as a whole benefit from that? Sometimes that's difficult to measure, and sometimes it's a little easier to do. But as an institution that I feel like many people in the community feel a part of, we hear from the community often. There is no shortage of feedback, and that's a good thing because it tells us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. It helps us reevaluate. We actually just several years ago, as a result of hearing from the community, reevaluated what our corporate pillars were, what our charitable pillars were, and that's how we ended up focusing on reducing inequalities. So, we say that we have the great privilege of hosting the Kentucky Derby, but it's not ours, it's actually the community's. And in that way, we ultimately feel like we have this great board of directors, that's all around us that will give us feedback. And so really that one's more important to us, is listening to the community and letting them tell us what we should be doing or could be doing better.
And could you give us an example of what you think has been one of the company's most impactful giving initiatives?
I'm so happy to talk about that. And it's actually a result of what I just mentioned, which is feedback from the community. And in 2020, we were told overwhelmingly that there were members of this community that didn't feel like they were a part of the Kentucky Derby, or they didn't feel like they had access to, some of the economic incentives or privileges that come with having a small business during the Derby. And so it was a moment where we stepped back and realized that for the longest time, we thought that the way to give the community was to provide experiences for them at the racetrack. But we realized that there are so many ways that we could bring Derby to others that have really nothing to do with horse racing, and especially those economic opportunities that pieces of our community feel like they didn't have access to. So through a lot of research, conversations, some more difficult than others, we were able to work with the Kentucky Derby Festival and our partners at Humana to develop the Derby Equity and Community Initiative. And so it was a 5-year pledge to our community that we would develop and invest in ways so that more people felt like they had access to those opportunities, but also they felt like they had very specific traditions around Derby that they could be a part of. And I think one of the best things that came out of the initiative was an online portal so that we could diversify the vendor supply chain throughout Derby operations and Derby festivities. And then also a Derby block party that now takes place. It's a new event every year. That is an official Kentucky Derby Festival event. It's been overwhelmingly successful, and it gives so many small businesses a place to not only be a part of the Derby festivities, but also show what they can do, network, and create a sense of unity and diversity among our Derby festivities, and one that I don't see going anywhere. It's been very, very popular, and it's gratifying to know that through these conversations, we were able to develop something that will be truly meaningful in the community for years to come.
Absolutely. That is a very special event. And we've got an exciting year ahead for Louisville as we look to celebrate the 150th running of the Kentucky Derby in 2024. So can you give us a little preview of any special ways Churchill Downs will be giving back to the community?
Absolutely. Well, Derby 150, I feel like it almost snuck up on us. And now we're here to realize that it is this incredible milestone that we truly want the entire community to feel a part of, to feel like they're being celebrated, and to be acknowledged that the community is such an important part of us being able to do what we're able to do. It's more than a horse race, as you know, not just the weeks leading up to it, but the hospitality that's extended to the visitors who are coming to town for the Kentucky Derby. They wouldn't come back year after year if it was just about the 2-minute race. It's about the experience they have in the city of Louisville while they're here. So it's important to us to acknowledge that as we celebrate 150. And so there's going to be a lot of ways we do that, all really exciting. One is our sponsorship of Gallapalooza. It happens to be the 20th anniversary of Gallapalooza, which I think everyone knows. Even if they don't recognize that name, they recognize these horse statues that are all over the city that, just create this sense of character for our city and become so recognizable, as well as a way to give back to local artists and give them an opportunity to showcase what they can do, their skills, their talents, and as a way to create economic opportunity for them as well. So Gallapalooza is a huge way we're sponsoring 150 horses, new horses that will go out into the community and find a home and ultimately benefit the Brightside Foundation and their Green and Clean program. So just investing back in the city of Louisville. And we're also partnering with the Community Foundation of Louisville for their Gift for Good Louisville Day, which will be September 14th. So $150,000 sponsorship there, which will be divided up among the participating nonprofits. And as you know, it's such an incredible day for these nonprofits to be able to benefit through the technology that the Community Foundation of Louisville gives to them. Coming up, we'll be giving out randomly $150 sort of gift cards or vouchers so people in the community can contribute to their favorite nonprofit. So all the ways that we can get creative and just create that 150 motif for people to remember, but really create meaningful ways to give back and say thank you and to celebrate the entire community as we come upon the 150th Kentucky Derby, which is so incredibly exciting for us.
Well, Tonya, Louisville is so fortunate to have Churchill Downs so focused on philanthropy. Thanks for all you and your team do for this community.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.